Well, hello guys, here we talk about fantasy. So let's start a new series where we will be comparing different fantasy series. So let's start with Hunter x Hunter and One Piece. We will compare these series on 7 topics: story, main character, side characters, antagonists or villains, world building, themes and depth. So let's start with the story. The story of One Piece is the best part of that series. It is a mystical tale about the treasure of One Piece, which will probably be the key to defeating the world government. In that journey, we learn about many mysteries of the show while also enjoying the adventure. On the other hand, Hunter x Hunter is also quite intriguing. Hunter x Hunter didn't get the chance to unpack as much as One Piece did, but it still peaked nonetheless. Hunter x Hunter is also a mystical story where humanity wants to explore beyond its limit, and we don't know what lies in the outer continent, where different species live. Both Hunter x Hunter and One Piece have great storylines, but they both have similar problems, such as pacing issues. So I am going to give this point to both of them. Next, we have the main characters. Now, Luffy is a great main character with themes such as hard work, the importance of dreams, and more. We saw how, after gaining powers, Luffy wasn't oppressing anyone, unlike the villains of the show. Luffy had good parallels with all of his villains, and he did have some character development that many people ignore, such as not choosing violence every time to make peace. For example, he was about to attack the civilians of the Drum Island, but Vivi stopped him, saying that one couldn't always use violence and must consider their perspective, which Luffy did later in the Water 7 arc. His development at Marineford, where he accepted the loss of a loved one, is also significant. So Luffy is a great protagonist. Coming to Gon, he is also quite as good as Luffy. Gon at first seemed like a typical shonen main character, like Goku or Luffy, but the writer did take a risk with him. Gon represented the main theme of the show, which was how biasness clouds our morality, a theme also depicted through the dynamic between Kurapika and Crollo. Gon, as we were shown, was like Luffy at the start, where he made decisions based on his emotions and instincts. When faced with the loss, he became exactly the type of person he despised, people who don't care about anyone if it means reaching their goal, which how Crollo was. We saw how Gon changed and became that type of person, ultimately destroying himself and his life for revenge. So both of them are great main characters, and I am also giving this point to both of them. Now let's come to the side characters. One Piece has a great cast of side characters like Sanji, who had self-esteem issues, and we saw him grow throughout the series. Zoro, who took the death of his friend upon himself and wanted to protect his new family. Nami, who cared about her crew having enough money as her past trauma happened because she didn't have money. Robin, finally having a sense of belonging after being betrayed her whole life. And Jinbei, who finally had hope for his race of fishmen, among others. However, one problem with One Piece side character is that any consequences for them are non-existent. I mean, it's also the same for the main character. Hunter x Hunter also had great side cast. Kurapika is one of the best characters ever. Side characters like Killua and Kurapika are fantastic. Killua had self-esteem issues because of his brother, and he overcomes them. Kurapika seeked revenge for his clan, and his dynamic with one of the main villains, Crollo, portrayed the main theme of the show. Isaac Netero represented the corruption among the human race and how humans were same as those villains that they fought. So both had good side casts, so I will give this point to both of them. Now let's come to the antagonist and villains. One Piece villains are good, fine. They had good parallels with Luffy in how they used their power to oppress others, while Luffy didn't, or how they would do anything to achieve their goals. But other than that, there was nothing there. Most of the One Piece villains are very cartoonish, where they are bad and ugly, and you will just feel absolute disgust for them. Now Hunter x Hunter villains are really complex. The best and main one is Crollo. Crollo represented the main theme of the show, which was how people get blinded by their emotions and became biased. We saw an innocent kid turning into a villain, and how his dynamic and parallel with Kurapika gave you the main message. Crollo, in his hatred and craving for revenge, became the very thing he hated for Kurapika. But Kurapika was the only one in the series who had a goal but was not blinded by it. We have Hisoka and Miriam too, though they are fine for me, but they are very much loved. Hisoka was a complete psychopath who loved chaos and challenges, while Miriam represented the species conflict, how his species was stronger than humans, and thus they were allowed to do anything to them, just like humans do to animals. It's a great reflection of human cruelty, though his 180-degree turn was a bit unbelievable and seemed forced to me. So this point goes to Hunter x Hunter. Now let's come to the world building. One Piece world building is good. We have many different kinds of island, a world government and more. However, One Piece world building wasn't as perfect as many people claim it to be. We could see how foolish the civilians and navy were. People with high morality like Garp or Kobe serve under noblemen through the navy, but as we know, noblemen were often evil, as they carried out genocide and sex trafficking on a large scale openly. The same goes for the civilians. They were cheering at the end of Marineford War, thinking that the government won, even though that the same government was carrying out mass sex trafficking openly on their island. I had a whole video explaining this. The world government was paranoid about their godlike figure and wouldn't let anyone plant the idea of rebellion in the civilians' mind. Yet they allowed 4 pirates to conquer a part of the earth, which would make people think that escaping this government rule is possible. Additionally, our revolutionary group could defeat these pirates and take their land, creating a free empire there. But for some reason, they didn't do shit. And also we weren't shown how those noble families ruled over the world. We don't know how they controlled the countries, their culture, their beliefs, and the economy. I mean, even after Luffy freed them from the dictator, how are they gonna build an economy that will feed everyone, as these noble families would have done something to control the money supply? I mean, we just don't know anything about this world's economic, and how does the world market works in this world? Is there any fight between the islands to become more rich, or the whole market is controlled by the world government? We just don't know. And how are there still kings in this world, as there should be someone from the government or noble family who should rule all the place? I mean, we just don't know how the world government controls the world and what's the system. Mistborn had a similar plot, but they explained everything there. They explained how noble families and the tyrant ruled the world. On the other hand, Hunter x Hunter's world building is one of the best. The Hunter x Hunter world is really big and humans live in a small part of the earth. Other species resided in the rest of the earth who seemed to be much stronger than the human race. Even after this threat, humans were stupid enough to go and explore that land. I am really excited to see how all this will play out, as Hunter x Hunter still has a lot to unpack, and I hope the writer Togashi will be able to complete his series. Now, not only is the outside world fascinating, but the political drama among humans was also great, and we got to see many fights for the throne, especially in the recent arc. So this point also goes to Hunter x Hunter. Now let's come to the theme and depth. One Piece has very simple themes throughout the story, such as the power of friendship, hard work, found family, racism, prejudice, and more. Many people say that it's also about freedom, and you could say that, but it's a very narrow version of freedom, as we never saw Luffy struggling with anyone. Either he was really powerful or he was saved by plot armor. And that's why Luffy was just never challenged morally, where he faced some moral dilemmas like we saw with Ellen in Mistborn or Kings in the Dragon Prince series. One Piece had many wars. At the end of each arc, a war took place where Luffy and his crew freed the island. In every fight they faced no consequences and no one from Luffy's team died. So there was no tension at all. Even after he freed the island, it returned to a monarchy, which is also very authoritarian. However, One Piece never dwells that deep into it, and everyone is just happy and equal once the government employee or evil pirate is removed. One Piece reminds me of Doraemon movies, where our main characters save a planet from invaders and they all party and leave. Hunter x Hunter, on the other hand, is way deeper than One Piece. Hunter x Hunter has many themes, such as revenge, the horror of the wars, the cruel food chain, hunger for power, egoism, redemption, and many more. Hunter x Hunter also dwells very deeply into each of these themes. We saw how our emotions makes us biased and turns us into very things we hate. How our negative emotions cloud our morality and makes us biased, as seen in the parallels between Gon, Kurapika and Crollo. There were also wars among different species, the conflicts among different races within the same species, and the struggles within the same family for the power. The drawbacks of monarchy and other government system were explored as well. There were many more themes, and all this is not even half of the story. So this point also easily goes to the Hunter x Hunter. So at the end, it's Hunter x Hunter 6 and One Piece 3. So Hunter x Hunter is a better series by a good margin. Tell me your thoughts in the comments.